Welcome back to Ask the Educator, a podcast for all professionals involved in medical device processing and sponsored by Healthmark Industries. The education team here at Healthmark has 280 years of combined experience in areas ranging from sterile processing, endoscopy, OR, biomed, to hospital and industry leadership. Our goal is to leverage our collective experience to answer one of your questions each episode, giving you the practical tips you need to succeed in the evolving world of device processing. My name is Kevin Anderson, clinical educator here at Healthmark, and I will be your host. Let's get started. All right, everybody, welcome back to our Ask the Educator podcast. This is Kevin Anderson, your host, and with me I have Stephen Kovach again. We're just kind of getting through these 10 factors of cleaning series. Today, we'd like to cover the factor we refer to oftentimes as mechanical. And so, Stephen, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of give our audience just a brief introduction, what we mean when we talk about the mechanical factor of cleaning.
Well, that's really good because we're going to distinguish this. But when you think of mechanical, when you do manual cleaning, it's the brushing, and we have a lot of podcasts on brushing and how do you take that friction of the brushing and put it over to automated washers, sonics, cart washers, a lot of the different mechanical things. So we're going to talk about that. And we'll start, with just the automated washer here real quick. So what is the mechanical part? It's the impingement. It's the power of the water. And it's how it comes through the spray arms. Everything comes through the spray arms, the rinse, pure water rinse, your detergent. So it's that power of how that water is now taking over the physical action of brushing and cleaning those devices. So is that where you'd like to start with, Kevin? Is that sort of how I introduced it? Fairly good, I think.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I think one thing that I'd like to just expound on that a little bit is that I remember learning from our friend Fred Alston a little bit about there's even levels of impingement. You have like the high level impingement or low impingement depending on your washer. These are kinds of things that I think it's helpful to know about your equipment to just further understand how it works. So, I think of the high impingement sort of like that high pressure washer, squirt gun type of approach. Yep. And then you got that low impingement one where it's sort of like you're just rinsing it under a waterfall, you're just giving it that high volume, right?
Well, that's really interesting because when you look how a washer is made, there's sort of two theories. There's the European theory, which is more a low impingement, where it's sort of think of a whoosh, whoosh, slower. And there's this reason for that because they usually use an alkaline detergent, and that's 10, 11, some maybe a little more. So it goes over it nice. And you think of the North American, that high pressure, that whoosh, 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 really pounding at it, and they are using enzymes more. So it's also the type of cleaning chemistries. And if you use one over the other, you got to match up the chemistry. But it's the power of the water. That low impingement is slow and goes over it. And the high impingement has more of the smaller hole. Think of your, when you water, you have the jet on it. You take your nozzle and you do it real fine, and there's that real strong jet, or you open it up and you have that water like a shower, just as you said. So it's the power of how that water comes through, and that's why it's important none of those get clogged. So that spray arm is what delivers the power of the cleaning of the washer. So I like to tell people, I use that KISS principle, keep it simple for Steve. Think of your spray arms and they have 10 holes. If 2 are blocked, you're only getting 80% of your cleaning and rinsing. And then if you have some of the other parameters not right, your dilution, it's not going to work. So you've got to make sure the screens are clean, the pump's working, nothing clogs them out, because you want to get the full power of the impingement, whether it's low pressure or high pressure, right?
Yeah, I think that's good. And, I like that you mentioned, all those different things that can go wrong. I remember looking in and you'd see, the water just didn't look right in the window, and then it'd finally finish its cycle. And then you'd realize there was an instrument blocking the arm from
Yeah.
spinning, and
Yes.
oh, now we got to do it again, or whatever. But there's all those different things that can sort of stop your automated stuff from working appropriately and getting that mechanical action that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So
So on some of the washers, what people need to understand, there's little side holes on the spinner arms, and it's the water that comes out, and they're opposite, so it can turn around. And if one of those gets plugged, and you've seen, you can have two washers looking at them, and one, whether it's high or low impingement, if they're both the same, you could see one just spinning the way it's supposed to, and you look at the other one, it's either stuttering or slow. That means something's blocked, and it could be that side porthole, as I call it, on the spray arm, so it doesn't turn all the way around. And in fact, there are some really good articles that have been written in Zen Central and some other places about the water pressure and impingement and cleaning. And now think of this. We're supposed to use low foaming detergent. So all of a sudden, think if you've got too much detergent and you have foam. Now, instead of that water coming and spinning, you're getting all this foam and it's not going to turn the right way. It won't rinse the right way. So there's a lot of things that can get done. And throughout these different broadcasts we've been doing, there's something you've been pushing into reminding people, quality management system, the PQ process. And so I'm going to give a little plug here for HealthMark. About 18 years ago, the Basile brothers, when we were starting to sell the Tosi and it was failing, we found out there were different factors that caused the Tosi to fail. And that's why we made that checklist that some people still don't use to this day. And are all the spinner arms there? Are they spinning properly? Are they plugged? And so on. That is part of your quality management system. So part of what you should do every day, are they all there? Are they working? The metal cage can bend over time. Do you see how they're starting all to dovetail in, Kevin?
yeah, they do, and we've mentioned that on these other 10 factors podcasts as well, where you really start talking about one factor, and then they lead into others, and it leads into the talk about quality management and all of that. So yeah, but it makes perfect sense, and they all kind of go together, and they're all important. But I like what you brought up about having that chart and all those different factors that you can check off to help troubleshoot the problems that do come up. I think that's a really important, real key that will help people learn and be able to better troubleshoot and get their service up and running. All those things, it helps a tremendous amount.
So I'm going to quickly try to go to the cart washer, then end up with the Sonic to get this in. And maybe whether it's me or somebody else, we can get people to talk more specific about each one. This is to get people to think and introduce what's going on. So the cart washer is pretty much the same thing. But what's really happened in the last 5 to 7 years, before that, cart washers really were not meant to do whole instrument trays because they didn't have the right racks. Now people are seeing, because of throughput and loaners, they're making specific big racks so you can put 9 or 10 or 12 trays. When you look at it, it's the same type of rack, but just bigger. So you have to do the same thing. So now you have a cycle that might be case carts or instruments, just like with your automated washer, you might have respiratory or delicate instruments or MIS instruments. You're starting to see that in your cart washer. So the same principles you're looking at. Do you have the jets? Are they clogged? Are they all there? What is the temperature? Where is the impingement coming? But if you look at some of the designs, those spray arms, when you put a case cart through there, they've really got to have the right angle and different things to get in all the spots. But when you put the ones for your surgical instruments, it hooks up different, have these bigger spray arms. So that cart washer is just sort of an expanded instrument washer in a way. When you look at it, same technology, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just for bigger items, really, and a little bit more flexibility because you're doing different things in there. But yeah, same concepts, really.
So that's, again, I wrote some articles about the cart washer. Again, we could break that down later. And then the next one is, I think after your manual process having the appropriate sinks, I think the sonic cleaner is the number one cleaning equipment found almost anywhere, whether it's a small rural hospital or ambulatory. Almost everybody's got a sonic of some sort, or they put some types of instruments. And the sonic has become so unique. And again, 20 years ago, and people say, why are you talking 20 years ago? They weren't hooking up lumens to sonics. Even 15 years ago, now a sonic can do instruments, flat instruments, can do robotic arms, can do lumens, but you're buying it first for that cavitation. And you want to make sure you're getting cavitation. And if you have that, then it's going to do what it's supposed to. The next one is that pulse flow or retro flow. And you want to make sure the pump's working. And everybody makes different sonics. Some have one pump that divides that water pressure through 8, 12, or 16. And you've seen it, Kevin. We've got some videos where the more you hook up, the less water goes through. And again, think of your faucet outside. You have one hose, you get a lot of pressure. You see some of these faucets that you can hook up 4 hoses. It's the same amount of water coming through, but it's now being divided 4 ways. And if you've got a problem, you're not going to get the same pressure to go through those lumens and so on. So you really got to know if you got 1 pump or 2 pumps. Does it have cavitation and so on? So there's a lot of things with that sonic, right? You've had all different types, Kevin, correct?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And, we were talking about this on another webinar I was just doing, but absolutely, you run these tests and you make sure that all the facets of whatever your ultrasonic can do are working properly, because each one could be sort of affected in an isolated manner. Like your lumen flushing a capability could go down, but the rest, like the cavitation, could be functioning just fine. So it helps you to understand why you're running the different various tests, but also how you can use that equipment should something go wrong.
That's a real good point, Kevin. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but if you have a multifunction sonic, that lumen part might not work, but if you know your sonic is still working with cavitation and can clean your regular instruments, you can still use that. You just don't do the others. So if you really know your equipment and how it's working, part of it could be shut down, but you can use the other one. And I think that's the point you're trying to get our listeners to understand, what is it you're testing for? But there's all these mechanical pieces when you put man and machine together, because we're not going to talk about loading and that's more human factors.
Yeah.
But you've got to make sure the equipment's running properly. And what are you looking to make sure is running properly? So in your department, you probably got a sonic. If you're lucky, you got a cart washer. And if you're lucky, you got an automated washer. And you might even have some of those pumps that you hook up by your manual system.
Yeah.
When you're cleaning that you pump through, well, guess what? You got to make sure those pumps are pushing out the same amount of fluid all the time, too. You start hooking up 5 or 6 items, you hold them up, and instead of getting a big squirt, you get these little things coming. And that might not be enough to clean it for the 1 minute. You might have to increase it to more time,
Exactly. Yeah. It's that exposure time. If the pressure goes down, that's just another sort of factor to consider. But we're running short on time on this one, but I think we did a good job explaining, the mechanical side of things of your automated equipment. So hopefully that was a good introduction for our audience. Steve, do you have anything?
And this was a good introduction to get people to think, talk to your peers, see what's going on, and trying to show them how you went from manual with the friction. Impingement is what you're looking for, is one of the mechanical factors in your mechanical cleaning equipment. So thanks, Kevin. Enjoy it as always, my friend.
Me too, Steve. Thanks for joining me. Just to recap this episode, Stephen Kovach and I discussed how mechanics is one of the 10 factors of cleaning. We rely heavily on ultrasonic cleaners and automated washers in our cleaning process. But when cavitation isn't present in a sonic, or a spray arm gets clogged in a washer, you can be sure that you're going to have problems with your cleaning. It's important to build into your process a series of quality checks with your mechanical equipment every day they're in use. Simple tests like the TOSI, SonaCheck, or LoomCheck can help you to identify when there may be a problem with your washers and ultrasonics. If you are interested in any of these tests, please reach out to your HealthMark rep. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please check out the rest of our episodes and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening. All opinions expressed on this show are those of the presenters. Before using any medical device, it is important to review the device manufacturer's instructions for use.